Welcome to The Perspective. Here, we look where others turn away, deep, dark, direct. Today, collectivism versus individualism. Why collectivism promises peace and contentment, but leads to misery and wars. Why we must separate the state from money, just as the state was once separated from the church. And why Bitcoin is the key to this. We'll dive into the Cantillon effect and take a look at anarcho-capitalism, a world of freedom. I'm a Bitcoiner, I see the world differently, and I'll show you what lurks in the shadows. This will be intense, this will be eerie. Stay tuned, it'll grip you. Imagine this, a world where everyone lives for the good of the community. Collectivism, the promise of harmony, equality, peace. Everyone gives, everyone takes, no one is left behind. Sounds tempting, doesn't it? In theory, collectivism brings contentment. Communities in Japan or Scandinavia show how collective values can create social stability. In Japan, people sacrifice their individual desires for the group. It leads to low crime rates, a sense of belonging. Studies show, in collectivist cultures, people often feel safer, less alone. Collectivism promises to unite us, to protect us, a safety net that catches us. But let's look deeper. Collectivism has a dark side, and history proves it. When the state or the community is placed above the individual, freedom is sacrificed. In the Soviet Union, collectivism was supposed to bring equality, but it led to oppression, famines, and millions of deaths. Mao's China, the Great Leap Forward, a collectivist experiment, ended in the Great Famine. Up to 45 million people died. Collectivism forces the individual to submit, to abandon their dreams, for the so-called greater good. And when the greater good means war, collectivism has plunged nations into conflicts. The idea that we must fight the others has set the world ablaze. World War II, the Cold War, collectivist ideologies like nationalism or communism were the fuel. Collectivism leads to misery, to wars, because it strangles the freedom of the individual. Individualism, on the other hand, bets on the freedom of the individual. Everyone is responsible for themselves, everyone can chase their dreams. In individualistic societies like the USA or Germany, this has brought innovation, the tech revolution, space exploration, the freedom to decide for yourself. But there's a danger here too. Individualism can turn into selfishness. When everyone only thinks of themselves, the community suffers. Poverty, inequality, social tensions, that's the price we pay. Yet individualism gives us the freedom to stand against the state, against coercion, against oppression. And that's exactly the freedom we need to separate the state from money, just as the state was once separated from the church. Why is this so important? Let's look at history. 500 years ago, the church controlled thought, morality, power. The separation of church and state brought freedom. The freedom to think for yourself, to believe what you want. Today, the state controls money, and with it, our lives. Central banks print money out of thin air, states decide who gets rich and who stays poor. This is the Cantillon effect. When new money is printed, those who get it first, banks, governments, big corporations, profit. They spend the money before prices rise. But ordinary people, workers, savers, they get the money last when everything is more expensive. Their savings shrink, their purchasing power dwindles. The Cantillon effect is an invisible theft, and the state is the thief. Inflation isn't a natural force, it's a weapon that makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. Bitcoin is the answer. Bitcoin separates the state from money, a decentralized system that no one can control. No central bank, no state, no manipulation. With Bitcoin, the money is yours, truly yours. It's scarce, it's transparent, it's free. Imagine this: no more Cantillon effect, no more inflation eating away at your savings. Bitcoin is the red pill that shows us the truth: money must be free, just as belief must be free. The separation of state and money is the next step in the evolution of freedom, and Bitcoin is the key. But what does a world look like where the state no longer controls everything? Let's look at anarcho-capitalism, a vision of absolute freedom. In anarcho-capitalism, there is no state. Everything is governed by voluntary contracts, by the market, by the people themselves. Private companies handle security, justice, infrastructure, everything the state does today. Imagine this: no taxes, no coercive rules, no bureaucracy. You decide what you pay for, who you trust. Your freedom is untouchable. Your life belongs to you. Bitcoin would be the perfect money in such a world: decentralized, independent, free. In anarcho-capitalism, you can shape your life however you want, without a state dictating rules. It's a world where responsibility and freedom go hand in hand, a world where power lies with the people, not the elites. But why is it so hard to imagine such a world? Why do so many cling to the old, to what they know? The answer lies in the comfort zone and the fear of change. Let's look at history. 200 years ago, oil lamps lit up the nights. When electricity came, many were afraid. They clung to their oil lamps because they didn't understand the new. Carriages were the standard until the car arrived, but many refused to switch, fearing the speed, the technology. Typewriters were replaced by computers, but many held on to their old machines because they hated change. Time and again, we see it: people cling to the old because they don't want to change. They fear the unknown, they fear losing what they know. But this fear comes at a price. It could mean the downfall of humanity. If we refuse to adapt, if we refuse to seize freedom, we remain trapped in a system that enslaves us. The state will continue to control money, the Cantillon effect will continue to exploit the poor, and the elites will keep laughing while we suffer. And there's another problem: we outsource more and more tasks. We give up responsibility to the state, to corporations, to machines. This is inefficient and dangerous. Imagine this: you hand over your finances to a bank. They decide what happens to your money while you lose control. You outsource your health by relying on processed foods. Your body suffers, obesity and diseases rise. You give up your skills by automating everything. You lose the ability to think for yourself, to act for yourself. Psychologically, this has consequences. Studies show that people who give up responsibility often suffer from stress, depression, and a sense of helplessness. When you give up your responsibility, you become dependent, and dependency is the opposite of freedom. Anarcho-capitalism shows us we must take responsibility for ourselves, for our money, for our lives. Only then can we be free. What does this mean for us? Collectivism promises peace, but it leads to misery because it sacrifices freedom. Individualism gives us freedom, but it can end in selfishness. Anarcho-capitalism shows us a world of absolute freedom, a world where we take responsibility and break free from the state's coercion. Bitcoin is the way to separate the state from money, to stop the Cantillon effect, to reclaim our freedom. We must break out of our comfort zone, just as our ancestors switched from oil lamps to electricity, from carriages to cars, from typewriters to computers. History teaches us freedom is the key to true peace, to true contentment. Collectivism has brought wars, states have enslaved us, but Bitcoin gives us the power back. Picture this: you're sitting in the dark, the screen flickers. The state prints money, the elites laugh, the poor suffer, but the blockchain hums, Bitcoin calls. The air is cold, the chains rattle, but on the horizon, a light breaks through. This is the perspective. What do you think? Is collectivism the path to peace or to misery? Can Bitcoin set us free? Do you see the freedom I see? Write it in the comments. Your voice keeps the mystery alive. If this perspective grips you, subscribe to The Perspective. Give this video a like, share it with the brave. Let's hunt the shadows and find the freedom. Until next time, stay awake. The truth lives in the code.